Located in Wimberley, Jacob's Well isn't just famous for its haunted tales, but is also known as a potentially dangerous spot for divers, thanks to its series of eerie chambers and the thick, sticky soil at the bottom. According to the Houston Chronicle, at least 12 people have died trying to explore the treacherous depths, attracting tales of lingering spirits seeking solace. Recently, some brave explorers delved into this notorious sinkhole, looking for hints that drowned spirits still inhabit the spot, only to unveil a chilling revelation that has captured global attention. What makes this well so enigmatic? What secrets lie at the bottom of this mysterious well that keeps claiming lives? Join us as we plunge into the intriguing discovery lurking beneath the surface of Jacob's Well. Chapter 1. Jacob's Well. Jacob's Well is not your usual swimming destination. It's more than that. It is home to many animals: quail, roadrunners, turkeys, water snakes, sunfish, Guadalupe bass, crawfish, and blind salamanders have all been known to live in and around the water. The well is also the longest cave in Hays County and the second longest fully submerged cave in Texas. Some call it a spring, but this mysterious natural wonder is more than a spring. It's a natural phenomenon that has been a source of reverence for Native Americans for thousands of years. The Jacob's Well water flows from the Trinity Aquifer, a natural underground reservoir that has existed for millions of years. This aquifer, which is the source of Cypress Creek, is a complex system of extensive underground chambers, replenished by rainfall and surface water that filters through the limestone rock, creating a vast network of underground caves and channels. This intricate geological formation is what makes Jacob's Well truly unique. The first written record of Jacob's Well is from a 19th century book by Jacob de Cordova. This author was one of the first real estate agents in that part of Texas. In his book, Jacob de Cordova wrote about Jacob's Well. He wrote, "The well is perfectly round, looks as if it was cut out of the solid rock by a skillful artist, and the water is so clear that even at that great depth you can, with the naked eye, discern an object that's as small as a pin. So if the water was so clear, what could be terrifying underneath? Don't worry, we will get to that soon." While the description of Jacob's Well was largely accurate, some people believe he wrote it to entice settlers to move near the well, where he owned land. They also thought that the well was named after him. Others believe that the artesian spring gets its name from a biblical story. In this story, Jacob, one of the patriarchs of the Israelites, dug a well that never ran dry. Since the first discovery of Jacob's Well, its waters gushed like a fountain until the 20th century. Back then, it was difficult for divers to go through due to the strong current. However, the waters have since calmed, drawing many visitors and wildlife for a soothing dip. Recently, the flow from the well has ceased, enabling divers to explore additional sections and unearth fascinating details about this natural wonder. Most people who visit Jacob's Well lounge around on the lip of the well to relax in the cold, crystal-clear water. Some leap into the well from nearby outcroppings into the slim opening of the water. Then there are the more adventurous ones who free dive into the well, sometimes as deep as 100 feet, maneuvering the thin openings into the underwater cave. But only specialized divers are allowed to explore the underground chambers of the spring. Diving to the end of the principal passage is a 5-hour ride. The passage is indeed a challenging and unforgiving environment. Only licensed scuba divers are allowed to explore these passages. Several divers have lost their lives while exploring the depths of the cave system below Jacob's Well. Two of these divers are Kent Maupin and Mark Brashear. How did it happen? What were they expecting to discover in the depths of this enigmatic well? Chapter 2. A Dive to Death. The well begins with a vertical shaft dropping 25 feet to a false bottom, clearly visible from above. Over the years, many have dived to this level, looking up at the sky through the water, perhaps collecting a fossil, before being propelled back to the surface by the aquifer's outflow, which is about 6,600 gallons per hour. The first scuba diver to venture beyond this initial section in the early 1950s. Nowadays, deeper dives are common and generally safe. Divers descend against the current, often leaving their fins at the top to avoid stirring up silt and reducing visibility. The descent feels like a slow, persistent drift, allowing a graceful landing. From this gravel-covered level, a corridor leads west and straight down to another level at 55 feet. Here, divers turn on a light and leap out, falling slowly like a pearl dropping through shampoo in a commercial. At most 20 feet wide, the sinkhole is filled with false chimneys, indecipherable graffiti, and crevices home to giant catfish. It's a cold, indifferent place, with the entrance visible as a distant blue window, casting a soft, moon-like light. A low-ceilinged chute leads to 75 feet from this room, becoming a narrow crawl space. Here, you can see crayfish, and occasionally eels born in the Sargasso Sea, destined to return there to spawn. The crawl space usually allows divers to pass without removing their tanks, leading to a tall, narrow room with an air pocket at the top. This room marks the start of the passage to the fourth chamber, a cavern no more spectacular than the rest of the well. Still, its inaccessibility makes it alluring to some. Two of such were Kent Maupin and Mark Brashear. Kent Maupin was no stranger to diving. At 21, he was an already experienced diver, an assistant diving instructor, and a part-time employee at a dive shop in Pasadena. He had often spoken of his desire to dive into the depths of Jacob's Well, to see for himself how far the submerged cave extended and what it led to. He was well aware of the risks involved. Over the years, 4 divers had drowned in the section of the well he wanted to explore. Any dive far into the cave was a severe risk and required meticulous planning and highly specialized equipment. For this daring adventure, Maupin wasn't alone. His friend Mark Brashear, a 20-year-old student at San Jacinto College, shared his fascination with Jacob's Well as well. Together, they joined a diving group from Pasadena and made their way to Wimberley, the location of Jacob's Well. They set up camp at the well, situated a few miles from town on the property of a financially distressed resort development named Wood Creek. On the night of September 9th, just after midnight, Maupin, Brashear, and a few others decided to make a dive into the well. They dove down until they reached the final squeeze, a narrow passage where many people had previously lost their lives. Maupin and Brashear decided to go further without backup lights or a safety line. Maupin took off his tank, backed into the tight passage, and pulled the tank through behind him. Brashear followed suit. Joe Moy, one of the divers who had gone down with them, watched in disbelief as Brashear disappeared into the tunnel. He was stunned. Nobody had discussed this with him. He flashed his light back and forth, trying to get Brashear's attention, but Brashear wouldn't look up at him. He just stared down at his tank and pulled it after him into the darkness. Moy knew that the situation was grave. Maupin and Brashear had steel tanks that held even less air than his aluminum tank. Since they were deeper than he was, their air consumption rate would be more significant. When he began to run low on air himself, he banged on his tank with his knife, hoping to get their attention. But there was no response. He left his light shining in the passage, hoping they would see it and find their way out. But when he reached the surface, the clear water of the well had turned an impenetrable chocolate brown. 2 panic-stricken divers could easily stir up that much silt. Moy knew immediately that Maupin and Brashear were dead. For many people, this tragic story of Kent Maupin and Mark Brashear is a stark reminder of the dangers that lurk beneath the surface of Jacob's Well. Despite its beauty and allure, the well's intricate cave system has proven deadly for those who dare to explore its depths without the necessary precautions. Yet despite this story and that of many others who have ventured into the dangerous parts of the cave beneath Jacob's Well without returning, more people continued to venture in just to unravel its mysteries. Mysterious, terrifying are too small a word to describe what they eventually found at the bottom. What did they find? Keep watching because there's more to uncover. Chapter 3. The Failed Rescue Mission. Don Dibble, the owner of a dive shop near Jacob's Well, and some others returned to the well to save Maupin and Brashear. Don Dibble heard about the incident an hour or so after it had happened. A police officer patrolling the area went to report to him in the company of another diver, Paul Battaglia. At that time, almost everyone believed that these 2 young divers would have met their untimely demise in the cave. Still, Dibble and Battaglia tried to rescue the divers nonetheless. They called 2 other Hayes County Volunteer Body Recovery Unit members and went to Wimberley. It was dark when they got to the Jacob's Well location. The other members of the diving group had been diving around the well since the incident. They've tried to locate the young divers to no avail. They were tired and couldn't properly process what had happened to their colleagues. According to reports, one of the divers had moved back and forth in the cave twice for 90 minutes each. He claimed to have seen the boys' bodies buried beneath a pile of gravel, but he couldn't retrieve their bodies. Dibble looked down into the well and saw what was pitch darkness. His instincts told him to wait until morning. The dead could wait until morning, but it would be dark in Jacob's Well anyway. Dibble thought that if what he had heard was accurate and the bodies were in plain sight, it would be an easy recovery in daylight. So he allowed the rescue team to disperse for the night. The bodies were not found until 10 years later, when another group of divers who had ventured into the cave discovered one of the bodies. This group of divers had dived into the hole when the flow of the well had temporarily stopped. But does that mean nothing was found at the bottom except from the diver's body? But first, what happened before they found the bodies? Keep watching. Dibble dispatched 2 divers to evaluate the situation, hoping the recovery would be straightforward. However, they couldn't locate the bodies, and gravel had nearly blocked the passageway. Upon surfacing, they expressed concerns about the unstable gravel on the steep cave floor, which could potentially bury anyone in its path. Dibble returned to San Marcos to gather a larger team and additional equipment, planning to resume the operation in daylight. They returned at 10 a.m. 2 divers descended and began cautiously moving the gravel with trowels, attempting to create a passable opening. However, their efforts only worsened the conditions. After receiving conflicting reports about the operation's feasibility, Dibble decided to dive himself. Accompanied by a game warden named Calvin Turner, they left spare tanks at 25 and 75 feet, unspooling a safety line as they ventured deeper into the well. They illuminated the ceiling crevice of the 3rd room to ensure no bodies were floating above them. The opening where the 2 divers were last seen remained impassable. Dibble checked his pressure gauge, noting he had 1,100 pounds per square inch of air left, sufficient for about 10 minutes at that depth. He cautiously inserted his head and shoulders into the opening, holding the safety line with one hand and his light with the other. He saw nothing. Tiny gravel pieces, propelled by the water's velocity, hit his mask lens. He instantly realized that recovery would be impossible without removing the deep gravel bed. He also became aware of his peril, but it was too late when he acknowledged it. A gravel slide trapped him in the passage entrance. The clear water quickly became murky, and darkness soon engulfed Dibble. His arms were pinned. He couldn't signal Turner or bang on his tank. His breathing rate increased as he struggled to free himself, and soon Dibble ran out of air. Facing his impending death, he decided to drown as discreetly as possible. Uncertain about the process of drowning, he decided to drink the water suffocating him, ruling out inhalation to avoid panic and loss of control. Dibble removed his regulator and began drinking the water. After a few gulps, an automatic survival reflex kicked in. His body thrashed and somehow freed itself. Through his water-filled mask, Dibble saw Turner offering him the regulator of the spare tank. He accepted it and filled his lungs with air. That's when Dibble's problems escalated. He had inhaled so forcefully that some air ended up in his stomach. As he ascended, the decreasing water pressure caused the trapped air to expand. Unable to spew out the air, Dibble continued to ascend to avoid decompression sickness, enduring excruciating pain as the gas expanded, resembling an embolism where expanding air gets trapped in the lungs. The usual treatment for this condition is a simulated dive in a recompression chamber. The other people present quickly transported Dibble to Brooke Army Medical Center's recompression chamber, but the treatment provided little relief. His pain persisted until a doctor at another hospital decided to order X-rays. The doctor discovered a rupture in Dibble's stomach wall and diagnosed him with peritonitis, a condition severe enough to have already been fatal. They informed him that his condition was akin to having 5 ruptured appendixes. When the surgeon cut into Dibble's distended abdomen, it was comparable to slicing into a basketball. As Dibble was recuperating from his surgery, the search for the bodies resumed. He summoned a professional diver named Don Broad from Austin to assist. At 46, Broad was a respected diver known for his gruff demeanor and strong opinions. As a child in El Campo, he had swum at the bottom of a rice canal using a homemade scuba rig. His interest in Jacob's Well was deep-rooted and passionate. He had been diving there since high school and was among the first to do so. He once discovered an old water wagon's remnants at the bottom and a set of horseshoes he speculated belonged to the horse attached to the wagon. So, he was the perfect fit for the job. Although Broad had a strong aversion to body recovery, he despised divers who wore skull and crossbones patches on their sleeves, signifying the number of drowning victims they had retrieved. His own experiences were the stuff of nightmares. Nevertheless, they needed him to help get to the bottom of the pit. Now that someone had the courage and expertise to dive to the bottom of this well, what did they find? Broad successfully recovered the bodies of the first 2 divers who drowned in Jacob's Well in 1965. He found their equipment bags and logbooks on the surface. The divers themselves were near the final passage, their lights still glowing after these years. Not only that, he also dragged up the carcasses of a few unidentified divers. It was a horrifying sight. And as for Don Dibble, he found himself $8,000 in debt upon his discharge from the hospital. He had no insurance coverage from the county, and his policy had expired. However, the situation wasn't entirely grim. Dibble had influential friends within the diving community who rallied to his aid. They published fundraising appeals in Skin Diver magazine, and an underwater film festival was planned, with proceeds earmarked for his medical bills. Dibble's doctor gave him the green light to resume diving after Christmas. His first destination was Jacob's Well, where he intended to block access to the deadly final passageway. He assembled a small team of divers and procured about a dozen 80-pound bags of Portland cement. They set out for the well on a clear winter day towards the end of the year. As Dibble donned his wetsuit, he couldn't help but glance at the vivid scar running vertically down his abdomen. He confessed to feeling apprehensive about diving back into the well. The divers loaded the cement bags into dive bags and lowered them by rope to the first level. They then untied the bags and manually transported them to the 75-foot restriction, where they wanted to construct the barrier. It was indeed a strenuous task. Imagine air attendants transporting a truckload of luggage. That was exactly how tasking the mission was. However, the work progressed quicker than expected, and they erected the wall by mid-afternoon. Metal rods were hammered between the bags to strengthen the bond once they set the concrete. They ensured enough gaps were left in the structure to maintain the water flow from deep within the earth. In the aftermath of the tragic incident that claimed the lives of Kent Maupin and Mark Brashear in Jacob's Well, Don Dibble took it upon himself to prevent further loss. He installed a grate over the entrance to the cave system, a physical barrier aimed at deterring thrill seekers from risking their lives in the treacherous underwater labyrinth. However, most people readily defied his efforts. On a subsequent dive to inspect the barrier, Dibble discovered that somebody had removed the grate and replaced it with a note that read, "You can't keep us out." Maupin and Brashear are among the numerous individuals who succumbed to Jacob's Well's dangers. Maupin in particular was no novice. He had been diving since he was 12 and was a certified dive instructor. That raises the question, what makes Jacob's Well so dangerous that even experienced divers lose their lives? In a 2001 article on Visit Wimberley author Louis Bond delved into the complexities of navigating the cave system. The well is fraught with challenges, including highly narrow passageways between various chambers. Bond also mentioned a false chimney, a deceptive feature that appears to offer a way out but has trapped at least one diver. In the deeper caverns, the combination of tight spaces and a floor composed of gravel and silt can severely blur visions, especially if divers mistakenly disturb the loose material. Despite these known hazards, The allure of Jacob's Well remains irresistible to some. The authorities installed a more robust grate to deter unauthorized divers from exploring the dangerous depths of the well. Yet, this did not prevent a near disaster in 2015 involving 21-year-old diver Diego Adam. During a free dive, Adam descended to around 100 feet when he lost one of his flippers, significantly impairing his mobility. Faced with a surge of adrenaline and his lungs crying out for oxygen, Adam made the split-second decision to abandon the lost flipper and attempt to surface. His dive expertise proved invaluable in this critical moment. He managed to remain calm and focused, surfacing just as his body was on the brink of oxygen depletion. Adam narrowly escaped, becoming another casualty of Jacob's Well. The incidents at Jacob's Well underscore the inherent risks associated with diving, particularly in complex underwater cave systems. They provide a stark reminder of the importance of adequate training, respect for safety measures, and the understanding that nature can also be unforgiving in all its beauty and allure. Despite the best efforts of individuals like Dibble, the call of the wild often proves too strong for those drawn to the thrill of exploration. It is a testament to the indomitable human spirit, the quest for adventure, and the constant push against the boundaries of the known world. Yet it also highlights the need for caution, preparation, and respect for the power and unpredictability of nature. Jacob's Well is a cautionary tale of adventure and loss, human courage, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown. Chapter 4. Other dangerous diving spots. Do you know there are more dangerous diving spots than Jacob's Well across the globe? While Jacob's Well in Texas is a well-known name in this realm, notorious for its complexly interwoven cave system that has claimed the lives of many divers, it is not alone in its deadly allure. Several other dive sites around the world offer unique experiences, but also pose significant risks to divers. Let's look at some of these other dangerous dive sites. First on our list is the Eagle's Nest Sinkhole in Florida. This site is often called the Mount Everest of diving spots. Comparing the dive to the world's highest peak isn't just about the thrill of the dive, but also the risks involved. The sinkhole is over 300 feet deep, leading divers into a complex cave system full of passages and tight spaces. The real danger lies in the low visibility within the sinkhole. It's easy for divers to lose their way in this labyrinthine warren. This sinkhole has claimed the lives of many divers, the most recent being Charles Odom, a 55-year-old man. Odom went to this diving spot with 3 other people: Evan May, Christopher Jones, and Kevin Lura. However, Evan May had issues with his gear, so he stayed behind while the other 3 divers entered the sinkhole. The group of 3 explored the cave's famous ballroom, an underwater chamber. While at it, Lura and Jones noticed that Odom had gone limp about 100 feet into the cave. They quickly floated him to the surface, and May, who was on land, pulled him out when he saw his body. May tried to resuscitate his colleague, but Odom was unresponsive. When the first responders got to the scene, they pronounced Charles Odom dead on the spot. Before the death of Charles Odom, at least 10 divers had died there since 1981, including a father and son who drowned during a Christmas Day excursion in 2013. The Eagle's Nest sinkhole is so dangerous that the site was closed to divers from 1999 to 2003. This kind of story should be enough to deter people from diving into the sinkhole. Still, despite the risks, the allure of the Eagle's Nest is undeniable, drawing divers from around the world to its depths. Another dangerous diving spot is one located at Tulum, Mexico. It is an ominous sinkhole named the Temple of Doom. This cenote, a natural pit or sinkhole, is as dangerous as it is beautiful. The crystal-clear waters of the cenote can be deceptive, luring divers into a complex network of underwater caves and tunnels. The risk of getting lost or trapped in these underwater mazes makes this site particularly hazardous. Just like the Eagle's Nest sinkhole, the dangers of the Temple of Doom are very well documented. There's even a skull and crossbones sign at the underwater entrance to the tunnel system. Yet there is a lax barrier to entry among guides in this area. The Temple of Doom offers an unparalleled diving experience for those who dare. So, despite the dangers lurking, this diving spot welcomes daring divers. The shaft sinkhole of Mount Gambier in Australia is another of the world's most dangerous diving places. The sinkhole was discovered in 1938 after a farmer decided to confirm the reason why his horse suddenly tripped. He saw that a small patch of ground had given way to a sinkhole. Little did he know that this sinkhole went farther down than the landowner could even test. As news of this shaft began to spread, it attracted adventurous divers who traveled from different parts of the world to see the fuss. To venture into this shaft, the divers had to squeeze their bodies through a tiny gap to descend into a clear and massive water cave. In 1973, these divers began to swim deeper into the underground labyrinth. That was when the dangers of the shaft started becoming evident, as the trapped bodies of divers were often lost, only to be later retrieved as corpses. The main chamber, known as the shaft, is a vast underwater cavern measuring 140 meters in length and 80 meters in width at its narrowest point. It features two large tunnels extending from either side of a 36-meter deep underwater rock pile, as reported by Border Watch. Over a decade after a tragic incident in 1973, the CDELA research group conducted 73 mapping and photographic dives to create the first accurate map and measurements of this seemingly bottomless cavern. On May 28, 1973, 8 divers ventured into the shaft, but only half resurfaced. It took nearly 8 months to locate the first body purely by chance. The remaining victims remained concealed in the shaft's chilling, hazardous depths until 2 squad members received deep diving training from Royal Australian Navy instructors. After intensive training to prevent the same fate as those they sought, the divers descended into the pit. During separate dives, they discovered the bodies of siblings Stephen Millett, 22, and Christine M. Millett, 19, along with Gordon G. Roberts, 28, and John H. Bockerman. Glenn Millett, 25, the brother of Stephen and Christine, was among the 4 survivors. Despite his best efforts, he was unable to locate his siblings. Before the disaster, about 8,000 dives had been conducted in what is now recognized as one of the world's most dangerous diving caves. Other divers believed that the fatal incident in 1973 must have occurred when the 4 divers left the clear, sunlit main chamber and entered a tunnel obscured by the silt they had disturbed. As you can see, this diving site is not for the faint-hearted. The depth of the sinkhole and the potential for disorientation in the cave system contribute to its danger. However, despite the dangers, for some divers, the shaft sinkhole offers a unique challenge and the opportunity to explore one of the world's most intriguing underwater landscapes. To wrap up today, we'll talk about the Samson hole. It is a notorious diving site located in the Gulf of Thailand. This dive site is a paradox of beauty and danger. Going as deep as 280 feet, the Samson hole is the deepest diving site in the region, making it an irresistible challenge for thrill-seeking divers. The Samson hole's depth is not its only intimidating feature. The area is a bustling shipping zone frequented by giant oil tankers. These massive vessels add an element of risk to the diving experience, as divers need to navigate their way around these vessels, making timing and precision crucial for a safe dive. The strong currents swirling around the hole make diving even more treacherous. These currents can change rapidly, catching divers off guard and potentially sweeping them into danger. Divers must possess physical strength and the ability to adapt to changing conditions quickly. As if that was not enough, the Samson hole is also home to deadly barracudas, a predatory fish known for their aggression. These creatures could quickly attack unsuspecting divers. The water in the hole is so murky that visibility is nearly zero, making it challenging to spot these aggressive sea creatures before it's too late. To top off all of these dangerous features, the Samson hole is also known to be an explosive dump ground, littered with unexploded bombs from a past era. That means divers must be cautious to avoid disturbing these potentially deadly remnants of the past. The hole is also characterized by narrow passageways and tight spaces, making it easy for divers to become lost or trapped. That requires divers to have excellent navigation skills and a calm demeanor, as panic can lead to fatal mistakes. The Samson hole has claimed its share of victims. Numerous reports have been made of divers who underestimated the site's dangers and paid the ultimate price. Despite these dangers, the Samson hole continues to attract divers from around the world. Its reputation as a challenging dive site, combined with unique marine life and historical artifacts, makes it a fascinating and dangerous underwater adventure. While offering unique and thrilling experiences, these dangerous dive sites are only for the bravest of the bravest. They require a high level of skill, experience, and most importantly, respect for the power and unpredictability of nature. As with any extreme sport, the key to safely enjoying these experiences is understanding the risks and being adequately prepared. So, whether you're a seasoned diver or just an armchair adventurer, remember that while the world's waters can be stunning, they can also be incredibly dangerous. One more thing, Jacob's Well Natural Area is open to the public from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. Swimming is not currently allowed, but visitors can enjoy hiking and viewing of the spring. Thanks for watching another episode of Beyond Discovery. While you're still here, check out the other videos you see on your screen.